you like about your team today, the bounce back effort?
Everything that led up to the actual start of the game was just excellent. Dean, in particular, was a guy that seemed, I know it's easy to say now because of the stat line, and he played strong defense, but seemed like a guy possessed when we were in the cage here earlier warming up today. And then as the team stretched, just a noticeable, much more loose environment. I think part of that last weekend was my fault, but just a much more relaxed group, yet a ton of determination or focus, whatever they would label it. So I don't know what all went into that. We didn't have any magic words as coaches, although Coach Elander did a phenomenal job today because he was kind of on both ends of the deal. I know he's complaining about not having a break to go to the restroom, just number one. But he's calling pitches and also running the offense in third base. So all in all, it was a good approach by the guys, and fortunately the scoreboard kind of showed it.
Different about this game 3 in a rubber match compared to last weekend?
Yeah, I would say that more relaxed. Emotions were a little more level because there's plenty to get excited about in that game, and there were some things that didn't go right regardless of the outcome. So I think a little less emotional and a little more focused on what's the next thing we got to get accomplished. But I think the biggest thing was it just seemed like a more relaxed group and a group that was having fun. I don't know, maybe because the sun was up or whatever it was, but that was something that it'd be nice if they'd put in a bottle and replicate that because it was just a really fun day to be at the park around the guys.
What did you decide to go with Xander today, and thoughts on how he did?
Yeah, he's a great leader, and he's been throwing the ball better and better every time out. I know he seems super consistent, kind of has that beam effect, but in my opinion, and we've discussed it as coaches, he continues to get better and evolve a little bit as a pitcher, and we felt it was right for him to get that opportunity. And who knows, maybe that could have helped Sunday too if we would have kind of switched guys around a little bit. But he did exactly what he needed to do, and I don't even know if he realizes the value of that first inning kind of going down the way that it did. The guy sitting there in the 2-hole, really the whole lineup is dangerous. They showed that. Pinch hitter even comes off the bench. They got a strong positional group, but, the guy in the 2-hole sitting there, and it's a big old headache. So for him to kind of get him out the way he did, put an exclamation point on the first inning. And we thought, he'd go 3-4 innings for us, but we just felt like the time was right to go to Sneed there, and it worked out well with him throwing the ball the way he did.
Sneed, what did you like about him today?
I think when he gets in a rhythm, he's as good as any pitcher we have on our roster, one of the best pitchers in the conference when he's in that rhythm. But to date, we've thrown him kind of out there in a mess or, in a difficult situation on paper every time out, and it hasn't always gone his way there. It usually takes him a little bit to kind of get settled. And today he came in right away and was outstanding and, helped kind of put it, to where you can say Xander had a really good start for us. A couple guys on base that he inherited. So I think the start of the whole thing was great.
How difficult is it to balance that usage with a guy like Sneed, a guy that can totally start for you but also work well for you like he did today?
It's really difficult. It's a challenge that has kind of been put in front of the pitching staff a little bit. You want as many reliable guys as you can. And then over the course of a series, you're just trying to pinpoint when are the critical moments and who's the guy that needs to be in those critical moments. And he was in one last week, and it didn't quite go his way. But the sign of a guy who continues to improve is he was knee-deep in it today, and he was outstanding. So, but there's availability for other guys to kind of make that progress as well. And, Tuesday, I'm not so sure we won't use everybody that's available or did not pitch this weekend. Yeah, I think it's a lineup where you could flip it upside down if you wanted to, kind of like Mississippi and really Alabama. It's kind of the nature of our league now with all these older and physical guys, and even the freshmen like Dean have a lot of experience and are physical. So everybody's dangerous, and there's a good bench to call on too. I'm hoping for that day where each one of them is 100% healthy, but that is not going to come. That's not reality. But if we can have to where everybody's pretty much usable, a guy like Bargo, we don't want to go a weekend where he only gets one at bat because he's pretty dangerous as well. So it's a strength of the team, but I really like when we play defense and we run the bases for the most part like we did this weekend. I think defense and base running were better than they were last weekend. So when those scores are tight, that's something that's going to make a difference for us.
I think Billy had his first RBI day in a couple of weeks. How good was it to see him kind of keep for himself?
It was great to just see him smile. Yesterday a fan said something to me that I guess I laughed a little bit, but Peoples laughed a ton. And, today, Billy, when he crossed home plate, it's not in the norm. I haven't seen it, for him to smile ear to ear the way that he did. But I think it's something that needs to be done. And maybe we need to do a better job as coaches creating that environment. We try and make it rowdy and try and make it fun for them. They put in so much work, but they got to give themselves permission, too, a little bit to have fun as an individual. I think as a team, like I said, whatever they talked about, they came out as loose as you could want today without it teetering, into the side of being silly or too loose. They certainly were focused on the task at hand. And anytime you got a group doing something, there's probably individuals doing it. And so I think him and Peebs were probably a part of that and need to be it, probably more often.
How much have you seen Sneed grow? Obviously, in the years, had some command issues and now several outings where he hasn't given up the ball.
Yeah, I sometimes lose track of what interview or outlet. It's great we get the attention we do, who I said it to, but I know I said once, I don't think Coach Anderson will ever get credit by the time Nate Sneed leaves here and goes on to do his thing in pro ball. I don't think Coach Anderson will ever get the appropriate amount of credit, and Richard Jackson, too, puts in a lot of time with him because he came in as a guy who throws real hard. Everybody knew it was a big arm. But like Doyle for Mississippi, both those kids, if you watched, this summer and you knew what you were recruiting, you're hoping for exactly what those two guys are right now. But hope is a strong word. I mean, it takes a lot of work and it takes development and it takes the kid to be determined. And, he's had a lot of good people around him helping him, but he's met him halfway and has done the work too. He's developed a ton. And I think that might get lost in the mix a little bit just because he's got a good arm. Scherzer's a maniac worker and incredible cerebral skills, which is, for a goofball like that, that's a lot to say. But a lot of people get lost in the fact he throws hard. Everybody throws hard, or a lot of guys throw hard now. So it takes more, and Sneed's doing that.
You mentioned how Dean was a man possessed and how he attacked today. Is that pretty abnormal to see out of a freshman?
I think so, but I think we're to the point too where it's their second semester of school. We've played a ton of ball, and then too we're gifted with guys like Ariel. When he gets his opportunity, he plays the game in a mature way too. Just saw a little extra activity. By Sunday, you could be drained. I don't care how young you are. It's an emotional weekend. These guys are asked to put together a ton of repetitions. So when you see guys just moving around extra, and then the extra talk, in the dugout and in the field, was that of an older guy. Because sometimes a younger guy doesn't think it's his place to speak. So, it wasn't anything crazy, and he wasn't dropping, F-bombs or anything or throwing his bat around or anything. It was just a little extra energy, a little extra motion, and a little extra communication. And, to me, that was a sign that good things were going to happen. And it's easier said than done now, or easier to say it now that the game is complete. But you could see the signs of that with him and a few others, but he stuck out to me.
I know it's not the most important thing at all. It's not the big thing, but how cool is it to coach two guys chasing history and see them apart?
It's fun to be around those guys for as long as we have. It's weird now with the turnover, with the draft. A lot of guys are draft eligible sophomores now, so you may not even get them to that third year. Junior college recruiting is always going to be a part of every big program, the portal. So, that's kind of what made our two favorite teams to date, and this one's still, they're not a part of that conversation because the year's not over. The 21 and 22 group were just a bunch of kids that we had so many days around, and we've had a lot of days around those two guys, and they do it very differently. But where they both kind of meet in the middle is they both want to win, and they're very passionate about it. And they've also both, they'll have their moments where we got to reel them in for whatever reason, but they both are quick to say yes, sir, and act on what you tell them. Maybe we give them too much freedom sometimes, but fun to be around those guys, and that's what I like most about this. You want to win, but those relationships are pretty valuable, and in this day and age, they're starting to shrink a little bit. So we'll soak those up with those two guys as much as possible.